everyone, it's Lana from Lana Under Pressure, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make easy Cuban tamales. Now what I like about the Cuban tamales is that they're like a great beginner tamales. It's like Tamale 101. The mixture is easy to put together, you can use whatever filling you have on hand, and the wrapping process is much easier to learn, and also it's easier to cook. Start with the filling first, because it's important that whatever filling you use is cold or room temperature, because you don't want to add a hot filling to the corn mixture. You also want to, if you're going to make the filling from scratch, you want to make sure that you marinate it or that it has a lot of flavor. Now the great thing about this recipe is that you can use any filling you like. So today in this recipe I'm going to show you how to make a quick Cuban pork mixture that we're going to use. We're going to make it in the Instant Pot. But you really could use anything you have. So if you have a flavorful rotisserie chicken, you have some leftover ground beef, whatever it is, as long as it's full of flavor, you can use that. Since I'm not using leftovers and I'm making my filling from scratch, I want to make sure that I get as much flavor as I can. So first I'm going to start off with a really good marinade, a flavorful marinade. And with that, in a big bowl, I'm going to add 1.5 cups water. And then I'm going to add my better than bouillon chicken broth. Now if you have, or you want to use chicken broth or beef broth that's already made, you would just use 1.5 cups of that. Or if you wanted to use bouillon, or if you had a marinade that you already wanted to use, just make sure that you have 1.5 cups of liquid at the end. And to that marinade, today I'm going to use the Goya adobo. This is like an all-purpose seasoning since I'm doing Cuban pork. However, you can do this from scratch by using garlic powder and onion powder. And in the recipe that I use, that I will link, I'll make sure that you have all the ingredients to make your own marinade with that instead of using the adobo. Again, but you can use any seasoning that you want. So here I have 2 tablespoons of the Goya adobo, and I have a 1/2 tablespoon of salt. Now this may seem like a lot, but remember this is just a marinade that we're using, and we want to add a lot of flavor to our filling. So now we're going to add our pork to the marinade. And today what I have on hand is the boneless pork stew meat, and this is just like country style ribs already cut up into 1-inch pieces. If you want to use the pork country style ribs, as long as they're boneless or you take them off the bone, you want to cut those into 1-inch pieces. If you're using chicken, you know, just make sure you cut it into pieces, but you can really use anything, beef, anything like that. So here, these are already cut, so it makes it simple. And I'm just gonna add that straight to the marinade. Now that I've added the pork to the marinade, I'm just gonna make sure all the pieces are submerged. I'm gonna cover it with wrap, and then I'm gonna stick it in the fridge for at least 4 hours, up to 24 hours. The longer you can marinate it, the better. This is the pork that I had marinating overnight that I had already left in the fridge. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour this with the marinating liquid straight into the Instant Pot. And because we measured out 1.5 cups liquid, that's more than enough to come to pressure with the Instant Pot. So you don't have to add any extra liquid. So now I've added the pork into the pot. I made sure all of the pieces are submerged, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid on. You're going to line up the arrows right here on the front, twist. I'm going to make sure that my vent is set to sealed, and then I'm going to press manual, and I'm going to high pressure it for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to leave it alone, and it's going to come to pressure. Once it comes to pressure and it cycles through the 20 minutes, I'm going to allow it to natural pressure release for 15 minutes, which means leave it alone for 15 minutes. Then we're going to release whatever little pressure is left, and then we're going to have our pork ready for the filling. While our filling is cooling, that's the perfect time to start making your wrappings. First, I'm going to show you how to make the wrapping if you're going to use foil. You can find the squares already cut. You can buy those, or you can just take a regular thing of foil and measure out 10 inches. Cut, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Cut it into a square. And there you go, you have a square. And you're gonna make about, if you wanted to do them all in foil, you're gonna make about 18 to 20 pieces of these. If you're gonna wrap your tamales using corn husks, then what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna have to buy the dried corn leaves, and you can find these in a Mexican supermarket or a Latin supermarket, or sometimes you can find them in the Hispanic section of your regular grocery store, or you can also order them online. Now they come about, you can get about 20, a little more than 20 in a package, so you're gonna need at least 2 packages if you wanna use only corn husks. Pick out the larger corn husks. Sometimes they can range in sizes in one package. You want to pick out the larger ones. You also want to pick out ones that don't have holes in them because you don't want the mixture to leak out. I've rinsed my corn husks off in water, and I just did that under some running water in the sink. That's really important to make sure that you get all of the debris. There can be, you know, sometimes there's dirt or corn silk left over, and you want to make sure you get all of that off. But you also want to make sure that you do it delicately because they can tear very easily. Now, once you've rinsed them off and they're all clean, you're going to put them in a baking dish or something where they can soak covered in water because they need to soak for 20 minutes before you use them. So here I'm using just a large baking dish, and I've kind of fanned them out. And now I'm going to cover them with just plain cold water. Now that they're covered in water, I'm going to let them soak for 20 minutes. And if there are any that are not completely covered, then after 10 minutes, you're just going to go ahead and rotate them so those can soak as well. And you want to allow them to have time to rehydrate for at least 20 minutes. For every tamale that you're going to wrap using the corn husks, you're going to need to have kitchen twine. And so if you're going to make 20 tamales using corn husks, you're going to need 20 pieces of kitchen twine. And you need them to be at least 24 inches long. You're going to use a ruler and measure out a 24-inch long piece of twine and cut it. And then you can use that as a guide to cut the rest of your twine. While the meat mixture is cooking, that's a great time for you to prepare the corn. Now you're going to need at least 6 cups of fresh corn kernels.
A cool trick to get the kernels off of the corn cob is to use a smaller bowl placed upside down inside a larger one. And then run a sharp knife down the corn cob as close to the cob as possible, and the kernels will just fall right off. And you just keep turning and doing that until you get all of the kernels off. You can use frozen corn for this recipe. You just want to make sure that you've defrosted it and dried them off. You don't want to use canned corn only because it's packed in water and that'll make the filling a little too runny.
And here we have our corn kernels. So about 8 ears of corn will give you about 6 to 7 cups of corn kernels.
So like I said before, what makes Cuban tamales so easy and a great beginner recipe is that you mix the filling right in. But first you want to strain off the liquid and reserve that, and then take your filling, whatever it is, and either shred it or cut it into bite-sized pieces that we're going to mix into our masa.
Now that our filling and mixture is cooled and our corn husks are soaking, we're going to start working on the masa, or the corn mixture for our tamales. And what you need is a blender. So we're going to take our blender and we're going to take our 6 to 8 cups of corn and we're going to add it to the blender. We're going to add a cup of that reserved liquid that we used from cooking our pork mixture. To that we're going to add 3/4 cup of vegetable oil. We're going to add a 1/4 cup of sugar and a tablespoon of salt. Now before I put it in the blender, I'm going to mix it just a little bit just to get that down there. And now I'm going to add it to the blender, and I'm going to blend it for about a minute. What I'm looking for is something that looks kind of like a corn smoothie. Now we can start making the masa. And to do that, we're going to add in a clean bowl, a large bowl, we're going to add that corn smoothie that we made. And then we're going to use masa mix. Now what you want to get is the instant masa corn mix. It has to be the instant one. That's the one that you're going to use for tamales. And you can find this in a Mexican supermarket. You can also order it online. But this is really important that it's the instant masa mix. And to this corn smoothie that we made, we're going to add about 3 cups of the masa mix. Now I say about because what you're looking for is more of a texture. So it depends how much corn you have and how your mixture is. So we're going to start off adding 1 cup of the masa mix. We're going to stir, and then we're going to add the next cup.
In this bowl, I have the contents of the blender and 2 cups of the instant corn masa. And this is way too runny, as you see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add in the 3rd cup of the instant corn masa mix. And this is where the recipe goes more on feel. My great-grandmother didn't really have a precise amount. She just would mix it until it was right. So what you should do is add in the 2 cups, mix it, and then add the 3rd cup little by little until you get the correct consistency. And the consistency we're looking for is kind of like a thick, kind of concrete or dough, something that will stand up. And a good trick that my dad told me is you can take the spatula once you're done incorporating all the masa mixture in. Take the spatula or your wooden spoon and stick it right in the middle, and if it stands up, it's ready to go. Now you can also do this in a stand mixer, but I like doing it with the spatula just because you kind of get a feel for how thick it is. Once you've mixed it to the right consistency, then you're going to take your cooled filling, whatever the filling is, and you're going to actually mix it right inside of this masa mix. We're not going to fold it like in Mexican tamales and fold it in it. You're just going to mix the filling right inside. And again, that's what makes these so great as a beginner tamales recipe, because you just mix the filling in and now we're ready to wrap. I have my foil square, a standard ice cream scoop, and my masa mixture with the filling already mixed in. Take 1 scoop and put it towards the bottom 1/3 of the foil. And you're going to bring the bottom of that foil up almost 1 inch from the top. Just like that. You're going to use one hand to firmly hold the top, and your other hand you're going to push down and drag so that that masa mixture kind of, mushes into a cigar shape. You're going to go ahead and put it into again, a cigar shape, and you're going to twist the ends just like so. Make sure they're closed really well. And then you're going to take the ends and you want to bend them in because you don't want any of the pointy end to pierce the other ones once you stack them in the Instant Pot. And there you go. If using corn husks, each tamal you need 2 corn husks. And you're going to take, you'll see there's a larger end and a smaller end. You're going to overlap the 2 larger ends, just like so. And then you're going to take 1 scoop of your tamal with the filling already mixed in and place it right in the middle. And then this is really easy. You're just going to wrap it like you're wrapping a mixture between a burrito and a present. So put the inner one, fold it over, then fold over the outer one. Bring the ends in. Doesn't matter which one you start with, just one over the other. And now you have like a little package. Take your twine and you're going to literally just wrap a package. If you've wrapped Christmas presents or Hanukkah presents, it's birthday presents, same thing. Flip it over, and then you're going to tie it in a knot. Now, it's important not to tie it you want to tie it just tight enough to stay in place, but not too tight because you will rip the corn husk, and you don't want to do that. So, just tie it in a little bow tie, and you're done. Perfect. We're ready to cook our tamales, and so you're going to place a trivet in your Instant Pot liner and add 1 cup of water. Now you don't want the tamales to be sitting in the water. That's why it's important to have the trivet. And now you just stack your tamales. And here I've used a mixture of ones wrapped in corn husks and ones wrapped in foil, but you can do all foil or all corn husks. Regardless of which ones you choose, you're going to cook them exactly the same. And again, this is what makes the Cuban tamale recipe so easy, because you just stack them in there however you can get them in. Most people are familiar with the tamales recipes that have one end open, and so you have to precariously balance them in the Instant Pot. And it's quite the art form, but it's one that I do not possess. This I can do. So now that we've stacked them in there, you're just going to place the lid on and lock it and turn the valve to the sealed position. You're going to pressure cook on high for 30 minutes, and then you're going to natural pressure release or leave it alone for 15 minutes before you take them out. And here they're done. And you can eat them right away, or you can freeze them. I like to put them in Ziploc bags, and they freeze really great and reheat even better. And it's up to you if you want to reheat them in the microwave or steam them in the Instant Pot. You can serve them with ketchup or sriracha. My favorite way is served with honey, actually. But however you decide to serve them, I think you're really going to enjoy this recipe. I'll be sure to put a link to the recipe in the description below, as well as links to where you can buy all of the ingredients that I've mentioned. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!